Welcome everybody to Culture Shop Podcast. It's your boy Pat Bayless, and I'm in the building.
With me, the one and only Gabe Stark. Some people know me as Starkey. Some people know me as Elguapo. But most importantly, I am the best jersey designer in the world and the owner of Rarebreedbx.
My guy is in the building. I love that he did the intro. Love that you did the
Facts.
intro, bro. Honestly, it's a blessing to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
It was dope. I actually came across your designs and everything just randomly on Instagram. And I reached out to you, bro, and it's dope that that you're able to be here and you took the time. So just thank you for coming. Just to start.
No, thank you for having me. Like, I've had the opportunity to watch some of your work, and you reaching out. It was definitely a no-brainer to do it. I also don't get a chance to talk to many New Yorkers, and to do too many podcasts in New York. So I always appreciate any opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. So let's start from the beginning. Let's learn about the man behind the design, the man behind Rare Breed. Let's start there. So where did you grow up? Where did it all start? Like where you went to high school, all of that. Where did you grow up?
Well, first and foremost, I'm from the Bronx.
Okay, let's go.
From the Bronx. So it's Rarebreedbx.
Yes,
so everything is BX. Don't forget the BX.
Absolutely.
Take it everywhere with me. But for me, a lot of this journey, none of this journey actually started in fashion. It really wasn't anything that was even on my mind to do. I've always been into sports. I've always worn jerseys. I've always been a big dude. So I've always worn jerseys. Throwbacks were big in growing up. So in wearing throwbacks for dress down day, because I went to Mount St. Michael, so I was an all boys Catholic school. And we didn't have so we had dress down days. So dress down days, I would wear a jersey. I would always wear jerseys, and life kind of took its turns. I know we're going to get there. I don't want to jump the gun, but and then I ended up with the opportunity to actually start making my own stuff, and I couldn't miss that.
It's funny because in that sense, I used to do that as a kid too. I had every jersey you could imagine, from old school retros to basketball jerseys to baseball jerseys to all of that.
Right.
So I remember wearing those, and that was just that was a style. So I know you probably had some fly shit.
Yeah.
What's your earliest memory? You say you were into sports as well, right?
Right.
So what was your earliest memory of going to a game? Was there something that inspired you just wearing the jersey, or was it just something with just the fashion, that part of it?
Well, I mean, I think in relation to jerseys and as a fashion statement, I think Dipset had a huge role in that. Cam and Jimmy and Joel's, like I said, I'm from Uptown, so I was a teenager right when they were at their hottest time.
Right,
so
right.
that was huge influence for all of us Uptown. You had Joel's had people wearing bandanas that was never doing any of that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I think with that, it was they were very influential then. So for me, I've also always been, I played baseball when I was little. I was in Little League. My parents also had us in everything.
What position?
I was in right field.
Okay.
And now realizing that I got a problem with depth perception, fly balls really weren't my thing. So so as an athlete, the way God made me, I wasn't really too gifted that way. But I saw the opportunity in another facet of athletics.
No, that's dope. That's really dope. So listen, there's sometimes you're in rooms doing certain things that God wants you to do,
right?
And you don't realize that it's something completely different than what you're doing in that exact moment. So you're in right field. Meanwhile, now you looking, you watching games in right field. You got designs that you know what I'm saying.
Right.
So
and I'm watching from right field.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's pretty. That's pretty amazing.
Good point.
What about parents and household wise? Was there anybody that inspired you growing up that you looked up to that really taught you the ropes of just being a man or being a young adult?
I think it's really interesting that you mentioned that, because I was just thinking about that earlier today, and I think, my parents definitely made me, right, both literally and figuratively. But I think my mother definitely helped, definitely raised my brother and I to be who we are as men. But then at the same time, I think just seeing both of my parents and how they navigated work allowed me to be the entrepreneur that I am. Just looking at their work ethic, looking at how they got up every day and did what they needed to do. I was the kid that was never late or absent for school. I was there. I think I might have been absent one time because I was legitimately sick, and I didn't want to miss school. And I think that work ethic came from them, and seeing them get up and do it every day, and also instilling in us have the drive and to never give up, right? And that kind of leads to a good segue in tying the sports and, the parenting. But I remember there was one day I wanted to play football because I'm like, all right, cool. I'm a big kid. Like, let's go play football. At the same time, Warren Sapp was playing. I'm like, all right, bet. Yeah, nah, put me on the D line. We about to crush it. It's over. Yep. And then the thing is that at that age, I think I was like I was 13. I was in like 8th grade. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, let's go see. I'm like, I should be dominating the kids that's my age. Yeah. But the thing is that they do it by weight. So they place you in your teams by weight. So now they had me playing against high school kids. Yeah. So now I'm looking at these high school kids. I'm like, yo, y'all look like grown men because y'all actually like fully developed and like. And I was like, level. Yeah, nah. Once I had to run laps around the field in that helmet and the pads, I was just like, yeah, nah, I don't think this is for me. And my mother was like, cool, football doesn't have to be for you, but what you're not going to do is you're not going to be a quitter and you're not going to quit. And I think, and that still rings in my head to this day. And I was like, yeah, football might not be my thing, but when I do find my thing, we got to lock in and we got to see where it goes. And that's honestly kind of what's got me here.
Amazing. Now let's go to high school and touch high school a little bit. What was foundation for you in high school? Was it trying these sports? Was it friends in high school? Did you have a big friend group, or was it like a core couple people? What really helped you get through high school and then on to the next level as being a young man?
Well, I definitely had a core friend group. Like, I think those are still friends that I still stay in touch with today, beautiful. Which is dope. And it's been cool. I was one of the kids where I was always smart. I was in the smart classes. I was in the honors classes. I was in the AP classes, but I was always cool with everybody. So everybody in the school knew who I was, and I knew who most people were. I'm a big on relationships and things like that. So I knew people, and people knew me, and that carried on through college and now kind of into the real world. But a lot of it was just being good to people, being nice to people, treating people how you want to be treated. And that really kind of led the way for the people that still support me now. But high school was definitely very, very integral in who I became, and going to Mount, it's predominantly Black and Hispanic. And I always joke that like Mount didn't necessarily prepare me academically for college, but it definitely taught me how to be a man. It taught me that like, no matter what you go through in life, things are going to be tough. Things like our motto is to the stars through adversity. And I think that kind of sums up what my life has been. Like, we still gonna get to where we gotta go. We still gonna get to where we need to be, but there's gonna be adversity. And with that adversity, when you can expect it, you can deal with it, manage it, handle it better than if you don't expect it to come. So I think Mount actually really prepared me in that regard of being able to face the real world and accept whatever challenges came at me. And it was honestly great timing and honestly the best place for me to be.
That's amazing. College life. What was there any distractions? Like, as you've had these adversities, these journeys and things of that, we've all hit this block, usually turning at 21 age, at 20, where there's a distraction wall that happens. Was there anything during that time period where you really distracted you from maybe getting to your journey or your destination quicker than you wanted to get to?
A big part of college for me, I think even in just my experience, has been primarily based around, I've always felt like a soul in a body. Mm-hmm. I've always felt like my mission is my mission. And when I always say we, people ask, they'd be like, well, you talk about your team and you talk about the business, like how many people are there in the business? And I always say we, and that's something that I learned in marketing. Right? Like, you always try to make the team sound bigger and sound like y'all all moving in, unison and all that, when in all actuality it's you and two other people. When I say we, I mean me and God. And he's been with me through all of it. And I feel like the mission is the mission. The mission has always been the mission. And nobody's bigger than the mission. So for me, it was never, and not even myself. So for me, it was a matter of really just trying to figure out where God needed me to be. And what that was going to look like. So whether it was starting out producing and making music and working in the entertainment industry for a little bit while I was still a teenager, to getting to college and doing other things, to going into management and doing all these other things. It wasn't necessarily a distraction. Like, I've always been focused. Some people in college would have probably even called me intense, you know what I mean? In some cases, right? Like, I was focused. I've always been focused. And for me, the journey has really been around figuring out exactly where I need to be. What does this actually look like? What is the calling? But I knew that there was a calling, and I knew that the journey was going to lead me to figuring out what that calling was. Yeah. And then once I figured it out, I was like, all right, cool. Like, nothing's going to stop me from doing what needs to be done. And I also know that the doors are going to open the way that they need to, because the big man is ordaining all of these things. So for me, it's just really showing up and doing what I need to do and playing the part that I'm supposed to play in all of this. But it wasn't really a distractions per se. It was more so just figuring out where the journey was going to take me.
When you obviously speak about God heavy, was there, since you've been young, has your faith in God always been high and strong? Or because a lot of people, they have those moments of, they know that God exists, but they really don't understand the Bible. They really don't understand those moments, and having that deep-rooted faith.
Right.
When did that deep-rooted faith really start for you?
Very early. You know, my mother had us in Sunday school. My grandmother was heavy in the church. I guess still probably kind of is. And my mother had us in Sunday school with my cousins every Sunday. You know, I can remember for the most part. So Sunday school taught me a lot about the Bible and just religion, all those things. As we got to middle school, we started going to Catholic school. And at that point, Mom was like, okay, cool. Y'all don't need to be in Sunday school every weekend. Y'all are getting it in school. Right. And from there, it really just kind of became my own journey and my own relationship with God. And I got to give that to my mother too. I think that, you know, she placed it in front of us, but then it was our decision to choose whether or not this was something that we wanted to continue to move in and walk in that faith, or completely change it, you know what I mean? And change religions or whatever. So we had the freedom to do that, but she definitely instilled it in us very early on, and that stuck with me to this day.
I think that's a great parenting approach. Just personally, a parent that is willing to instill something, but also give you that choice, because there's people that have, you know, family members or parents that they tell them something and they make sure that, you know, if they veer off, they then treat them different. Right. So the fact that, you know, your mother and in general was just able to give you that, instill it, and you felt so strongly in that and comfortable, speaks a lot to you and to her and y'all bond.
Absolutely. Besides,
you know, God being even involved, which obviously he's involved in everything. But,
right.
You know, that's amazing. All right, now let's talk about the business, because I want to know so much that I don't know. You know, this is your business to me is dope from afar. But so how did this all come about? I want you to start from like where like it all came about, and what really got you started, and what was like your first big eye opener to be like, this is what I could do for real.
Well, first I gotta take you a little step back, right? I mentioned that I was in marketing, right? So I started my own company when I graduated college, and I did like a lot of other people, which was coming back to New York and picked up a camera and just shot everything that we could get our hands on. So everything from music videos to covering interviews to covering events to whatever we could get our hands on, we did. And I did that for a little bit, and then got the opportunity to go work at an ad company. Just kind of like a temp, close out the year kind of thing. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I've been running my own company and wearing 6 hats. If I could come over here and wear 1 hat and get a check, I was like, why not? Let's see where it goes. So did that, ended up going into advertising, saw what that was like. It was all right, cool. So I kind of, worked my way up. My specialty was social media strategy. So I was just heavy on social media. And at that point, it didn't, it was something that companies started coming around to. And they're like, okay, we need this, and it's kind of necessary evil for what we need to kind of play the game at that point in time. And I went from I went to a couple different agencies and worked at a couple different agencies. By the time COVID comes around, 2020 comes around, and the agency I was at, the client I had at the time was CVS Health. Okay. So we were running all the social media accounts for CVS Health and their C-suite during COVID. which, as you could imagine, was not a fun, fun place to be. So I was like, all right, cool. We need to wrap this up, and I need to figure out what the next move is going to be. Right. Of course, around that time, there was a little extra income coming in around that time, and I knew, I was like, look, this opportunity isn't going to happen. Honestly, may never happen again. But what I need to do is use this money to change my life. And I put aside 10 grand and was like, nah, I really need to use this to do something. At the time, I was DJing on Twitch. And while I was DJing on Twitch, this was 2020. So I'm like, all right, I'm home, and I was DJing in college and all that. So DJing is also something that I kind of just did in those gaps when I'm trying to like figure things out. I was like, all right, cool. Let me just go back to DJing. Let me just do something real quick, make a little money and just, whatever. So 2020 rolls around. I'm DJing on Twitch. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, let's, see where this thing goes. Nobody knew what streaming was then. Nobody, like, I had to teach people what a Twitch was. Yep. I had to teach people how to sign up. Yep. The Twitch was also really hard to sign up because you need the security key and all stuff. Like, there was so many verification. Right. Yeah. And people were like, what is this? Like, what do you mean?
Close the door. You good?
What do you mean? What do you mean that you are DJing a party online? Like, what is that? Meanwhile, now, fast forward 5 years later, and everybody and their mother's a streamer, and some of the highest paid people are streamers.
Yeah, you think about that, and not even to cut you off, I'm sorry, but you just think about all the streamers that are doing now that everybody and their mom doing it, whether it be Kai, DDG, all these people. Right. So.
Yeah, no, and so 5 years ago, that wasn't a thing. And I wore jerseys on every time I DJ'd. I wore a different jersey because, again, I've had jerseys, and that was also my thing when I was working in advertising. I wore jerseys to work. You know what I mean? Like, I'm working in marketing. I'm not wearing no shirt and tie. And what I mean? I'm wearing jerseys and Jordans or something to work.
Right.
So that was always my thing. It was always kind of part of my identity. And then that's what it was. So in 2020, I said that I wanted to change my life. So I'm like, all right, cool. How do we get this going again? I know that I had relationships with a lot of great graphic designers. And I've always been in the camp of, let's just go out and do it. Let's go out and create something. Let's go make it, and let's see where it falls. And so my idea was, all right, cool. I'm going to use this money. Let's rebrand the team that hadn't ever really rebranded itself. So naturally, as a New Yorker, I was like, well, let's rebrand the Knicks. So we reimagined the court, reimagined the uniforms, made fake Subway ads, all of that. In the process, I was like, wait a minute. These jerseys came out dope. I want to wear one of these. Yeah. And went down the rabbit hole of finding the right materials and partners, and put out the first jersey November 2020. And the rest has kind of been history from there. But because I'd known about jerseys, like, I knew what material I wanted. I knew what quality I wanted. I knew I wanted it fully stitched. I knew I wanted the quality that other brands weren't really providing at the time. And so I just went and made it, and we put out the first one November 2020.
That's dope. So you've been in magazines. You've worked with organizations like the LA Sparks, the Liberty, the Mets. Yeah. How did all these things come along? Because I know you say the rest is history, but people are gonna want to know, well, what is that damn history? So how was it getting in those doors? Like, after the first one, how was it getting in these doors, meeting these? I'm guessing you're meeting these CEOs, and you're meeting these people and sitting in these big rooms. Right.
Well, first of all, also, let's not forget the Long Island Nets.
And the Long Island Nets.
Shout out to them. Shout out to Wade and all of them over there.
Absolutely.
The way that all of this kind of came about, and so in putting out the first jersey in November 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, about a year or two in, I realized that most of our customers have been women. Okay. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, if most of our customers have been women, then why don't we actually cater to women? Like, let's focus on women. Let's see where that goes. Smart. And so in the process of catering to women, my goal then became, all right, well, how do we authentically cater to women sports fans without making everything pink and glittery? So that was the number one goal. And it just, all right, let's just figure this out. So it came up with two answers. One was cropped jerseys. One of the things I always realized with women in jerseys is they take, especially baseball jerseys, you taking the bottom, you tying them up, you doing all this other stuff to try to get rid of the fabric. Okay, cool. How about we just get rid of the fabric? So we just got rid of that fabric. Let's make it shorter. Let's make it more form-fitting. Let's like actually give the girls something that they want. Right. Cool. The other thing was our hersey, which was a jersey dress. And in my mind, I was like, hey, the jersey, you know, the jersey dress had existed. We've seen like 2 examples of it ever in the world. You get Mariah Carey at the NBA All-Star game, and she's wearing like a Michael Jordan gown.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then you had, the main one, Maya, in the Best of You video, and she had on the Jordan like jersey dress. So I set out then to that question then became, how do we make something that's authentically a jersey and authentically a dress? I've seen a lot of people take a jersey and try to make it a dress. I've seen people try to take a dress and make it look like a jersey. I wanted to make something that was 100% jersey and 100% dress, and that's exactly what we did. So the hersey has been around with us since pretty much the inception of the company, maybe like 3 or 4 months later, but the hersey's been around since the beginning. And so then fast forward about 2 or 3 years after that, we had a lot of women clients, all those things we've worked with. We've had stuff on 5EO Foreign and his crew. We did stuff with Girl Code. Like, we just put stuff on a lot of really cool people. I still want to get a piece on Cardi because she's from the Bronx, and we gotta. I'm speaking that into existence.
Me too. I've been speaking that interview into existence for me. That's somebody that I want to interview so bad because of her personality. I love real people that like I can ask you something and it ain't gonna be, you know what I'm saying, business like type. And she just gives off, So
maybe we'll speak that into existence.
For sure.
Work with Cardi this year.
Yes, absolutely.
But so we put stuff on a lot of different people that did what it needed to do. And honestly, Instagram has been the best for my business. Like, I've cold email people till the cows came home, and like, that did lead to some business, but honestly the most effective business has been through Instagram, just because when people find out about you, and we even talk about you just now 10 minutes ago, the first thing that they look up, nobody asks you if you got a website, nobody asks you if you on Twitter, nobody asks you if you on TikTok, you on IG. That's the first thing anybody asks you about. So I'm happy that God put this in my head years ago to really invest in IG and double down on IG and building a fan base over there. But with that, damn, I lost my train of thought.
Bring it back.
IG. Oh, right. So IG, how we got to how all this started. So the way it happened was I found out, actually another story. Then look at God, right? So I had a meeting with the New York Liberty on, let's say, a Thursday, right? A couple months prior, I had sent a jersey, our Broad Street Bullies hockey jersey, to the singer Her. Shout out to my guy Worry. And he put it on her. I sent it to her initially for a music video. The music video comes out. She's not in the jersey. I'm disappointed. Tough. I'm like, damn, like it's her and Anderson .Paak was the song. So I'm like, she gonna put it in the jersey. It's over here. We out of here. The video comes out, she's not in the jersey. So I'm like, damn, man. But I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I know he's got me. Whenever it's supposed to work, it's gonna work. It's gonna work, And he puts her in it the night of, I think it was a Brooklyn Nets anniversary thing that she was performing at. Like, it might have been 20 years of the Brooklyn Nets or something like that. And she was performing there, and she wore the jersey. I had the call with the Liberty the next day. The Liberty management were in the crowd for that Brooklyn Nets performance the night before. And I was like, I just, had a jersey on her. Whatever. And they were like, was it like black and orange? And I was like, it was. They're like, we saw her last night in it. I'm like, oh shit, like that's crazy.
That's amazing.
Like, y'all, like I'm about to come into this meeting and pitch y'all on all the stuff that we can do. And y'all literally saw my work last night. So then I had a conversation with them. That conversation didn't actually end up leading to anything. Okay. About 4 months later, go online. We had a couple other things under our belt, whatever. And I happened to see the woman who runs the halftime entertainment stuff for the Brooklyn Nets. So I shoot her a DM. Shout out to Chrisia. And I shoot her a DM. I'm like, hey, this is what I do. We've done X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. She's like, oh, nah, I've seen your work. Let's get on a call. So now I go into the call assuming like ready to pitch. All right, bet. So we could do this. Absolutely. We could do that. We could make this for you. We could make that. She goes, yeah. All of that's cool and all. But she's like, but I like your hersey. She's like, I like your hersey. And I honestly think that like, I want to see if we can put Ellie in it. And I'm like, oh shit. Like that is huge. Like I'm like, yo, I know Ellie, like you know what I mean, whatever. I'm like, but I've never worked with
probably one of the biggest mascots. Period.
Right.
Like,
and I didn't know, like you know what I mean, like I've known the Liberty, I've known it, and I'm like, but I've never worked with a mascot. Like, how is this? In my mind, I'm like, how do we do that? How does that work?
But yeah, I noticed that with Ellie, the figure and even like the design of like the women wanting to be involved, because when you see somebody in the dress, when you see somebody elegant, even in basketball, it draws grown women, but also draws kids. Like kids, young girls want to see that. They don't mind seeing a regular basketball jersey and shorts, but when they see it, that hersey, that just makes it hit different. So I know that had to make you proud.
It personified her, I think, in a way that the uniform wouldn't and didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like Ellie didn't just exist last year. Ellie's been around for a little bit.
Exactly.
She blew up last year, and like I said, I think it was definitely a couple things that went into play, right? Like I think the hersey was definitely a part of it. I think the team, Chrissia, Shanae, Jade, they did a great job at pushing her personality. I think I also have to give the Liberty execs kudos too, because they got out of their way and just let them do their thing. Like they let them build that brand the way that they saw it and the way that they wanted to, and it turned her into this national phenomenon that she was last year, and they've kept growing with it and growing with her, and the brand has continued to grow. But they've done amazing work with her, and I do think that the hersey was a big piece in this new branding of Ellie. I mean that was Ellie. I'm like, Ellie was everywhere. We were in Vogue, GQ, damn near every New York news station you could think of, Ellie was on. But I think, like you said, the Sports Illustrated one, I think hit close to home. Like, as a sports fan, as somebody who's, been around sports for so long, I think being mentioned in Sports Illustrated was like, wow. But I think from a fashion standpoint, of course, Vogue is huge, and to have been in Vogue twice, to have my work in Vogue twice, and for somebody who's been doing this for now in our 5th year of business. So you're talking about my 4th year of business. We had work in Vogue and Sports Illustrated and all these different things. It becomes now like, where do we keep raising the bar? Like we've raised the bar really high. Right now it becomes, well, what's next? And we're at the point where I'm really competing against myself.
That's my thing. So that's why I always find like there is a ground with that, because the more you excel, the more I feel like the pressure builds. And if depending on how you handle it, is sometimes where your trajectory continues to go.
Agreed.
Because some people see all the success, just like you said, twice in 4 or 5 years. How do you better that? Because that, honestly, is people that don't get there till they don't get their period, or they don't get there until they're in their 50s that have been doing what you're trying to do. You know what I'm saying? Like what you've been doing, they're trying to do for that long.
Right.
So I commend you for the fact that you still seem humble and still seem hungry. That's the thing, is people could be like, man, I've been at ESPN, I've been here, I've been there. My work speaks for itself. Y'all gotta buy, y'all gotta, y'all gotta do it, and that's it. So where does your goals kind of shift? Where does your mind shift? Like when you sit at night and you think, or when you're with your team and you're trying to figure out the next strategy, where does your mind really shift to?
Good question. And like you said, in the kind of competing against myself that I'm in now to a certain degree, the strategy is always innovation. Innovation is always at the foundation of everything that I'm doing. I want to leave a mark in whatever it is that we're doing. And then also, too, it's always necessary to one up the last thing, right? So for me, it was important for coming into this season, well, having the Liberty last year and working with the Liberty, it made me realize, like, okay, the goal then became, all right, well, each year, let's add a new team. Like, the goal is just, let's have another team next year. Let's bring the Liberty back. Yeah. Hopefully they'll come back next year. Right. We'll bring the Liberty back next year, but then let's add another team. What I didn't want And again, going back to my time and when I was doing music, was I think what happened and what I saw with a lot of New York rappers specifically is the way New York is set up is that you can spend all your time, energy, effort, money, and just trying to win New York. And then you can finally get to the top of New York, and it's like, okay, cool. Now there's 49 other states that you got to go win.
It's insane.
And so with that, I also didn't want people to pigeonhole me into believing that I was just some New York act or New York artist or New York businessman. So for me, it was important to this season. Yeah, we're going to still do our work with Ellie, but that's the baseline now.
Yeah.
Now, when this WNBA season starts again, we got to hit them with something different. And we did. And that was the LA Sparks. And I wanted to do something completely, literally on the other side of the country, the second biggest market in the league, to do something with them. And we did it with the Sparks crew. And shout out to the Sparks crew. And we were able to outfit their whole dance team. And we did a custom tracksuit for them. And then the Timeless Torches, who we also had with the Liberty, came back, wanted another jersey. And then this year we did tracksuits for them. So for me, it's more about continuing to build on what we've done. The Liberty led to other things. The Liberty led to the Long Island Nets, which we then outfitted their dance team, and then the Liberty also led to New York Mets, where we outfitted the Queens crew. Shout out to the Queens crew.
Yeah, just saw that. That was dope.
And so we outfitted the where we outfitted the Queens crew. So as a Mets fan, that was
Pinnacle.
Huge, you know what I mean? And they are the first dance team in the MLB. So to be a part of the first dance team in Major League Baseball is crazy. To have Ellie be what she's become and become the mascot that she's become. Ellie's become the bar for mascots, and like what the persona should be and what they should look like and what the personality should look like. She's really running a master class on what it takes to be a great mascot. So I think with all of that, it's just a matter of continuing to set new goals, right? I think just even in this conversation, a lot of it is just based around goals and what does that goal become? And I think with that, guys continue to open up new doors and new ways and new opportunities to think about it. Because I had a conversation with a friend of mine from high school who now has become a pastor. And I was telling him, I was like, where I'm at right now. And I remember I had this conversation with him in like December. It was right before the new year. And I was like, what feels very interesting to me at where I was at then was that I felt like I could really relate to Moses in the sense that God has got me on this journey, but I don't know what the next step is. And now we've got people that are also looking at me to lead. And it's one thing if I'm just leading myself or leading my team or whatever. But now there's other people watching and people are like, all right, cool. So what's next? And now I'm like, well, I got to wait for the big man to tell me what's next before I can just do what's next. And he told me, and it still sticks with me, is that he said, if you want to know what the plan is from A to Z, go get a 9-to-5. But if you are going to do this and actually walk in faith, you're going to go from A to B. Once you do B, then C will open itself up and present itself. And then D will present itself, open itself up and present itself. So everything has kind of just been a progression of what's next. And the hardest battle for me, honestly, has been patience. The hardest battle is, I think, as much as you try to spin your wheels and fight against the current and, you want to do what you want to do and you want to do all these things, a lot of it is, what are you going to do with that downtime? What are you going to do with that time when the business is a little slow, but you're also not just going to quit? You're also not going to just switch gears and you just really just kind of got to thug it out. What are you going to do? And that's where the patience comes in. And honestly, the slow times become the time to strategize, to rejuvenate, to do all those things. But that you're only able to rejuvenate when you actually have faith, because you have the faith that this is going to come back around. These teams are going to call again, or a new team is going to call again, and somebody else is going to call again. But you have to understand that if business is slow right now, it's not going to be slow forever. It's going to pick up at some point. But are you going to be ready when it picks up, because when God is like, all right, it's go time, there's no, all right, cool, it's going to start in 2 days. It's go time right now. And that go time might go for 2 months, it might go for 2 weeks, it might go for 2 years. But you got to have the stamina to be able to do that. So are you going to be ready? Are you going to actually take that downtime to rest? Or are you going to keep trying to push and fight against the current and tire yourself out? And then by the time when you actually need to use that energy, you're going to be tired and you're not going to actually be able to accomplish the things that you were meant to accomplish. So I think in learning all of those things, it's allowed me to kind of appreciate the process, smell the roses by way of that process, but also just trusting in it and trusting that things are going to work out the way that they are supposed to and how they're ordained to. And as long as I'm doing what I need to do, everything's going to work out the way that it's supposed to.
Absolutely. I think patience is super, super important. Like you said, it's just a key to living and every day. But it's also got to be that hunger. That patience and that hunger got to stay almost kind of consistent, which is something interesting to look at, because I know even within like podcasting and doing things like that, it's not paying right away.
Right.
Like, you're not
Right.
getting checks right away. Like those
Right.
things, you're doing it for the passion,
Right.
you know, and you're doing it because you love doing it.
Right.
But you could have a big guest. Like I've had Danny Green on.
Okay.
Danny Green, I mean, you watch sports, you know who
Yeah,
Danny
yeah.
Green is, from Long Island.
Right.
NBA champion, you know, played with LeBron, played
Right.
with Tim Duncan, played with greats.
Right.
I've had him on here. So I've smelled that moment of being like, yo, I'm really talking to Danny Green right now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or I've been
Right.
around other people that are very accomplished, even in podcasting world and interviewing and stuff like that. So you see they're around these people, you're in some of these rooms, and you're like, man, you get this hunger feeling. You're like, I want to be here.
Right.
Like, I want to be here, but I want to be here because of me and because
Right.
of God and because. So you get those moments, and then you go home, and you're like, that's when you're sitting, and you're like, man, I still got to sit and look at this as I got to stay patient.
Right.
But you sometimes toss and turn because you're like, when is it going to come? Like, I'm putting in all this work. I'm seeing sometimes, and like I've said a couple times, I see sometimes clips going viral, millions of views, and they got no substance. It's
Right.
just people have that following. And you're looking, and you're like, bro, what I'm saying and what I'm putting out, I know has deep substance.
Right.
And that's the moments that you're talking about, is like believing in God and having that patience to be like, you know what? One day it's going to crack the surface. And when
Right.
it cracks the surface, I'm going to be ready because I've already put in all the time. I've already learned all the cameras. I've
Right.
already learned all this stuff. So when time is really going to be money, it's going to be money. And I think building that foundation, like kind of like what you did, you didn't even know you was doing that as a kid, or
Right.
or DJing,
Right,
wearing
right.
jerseys
Right.
and doing all those things. You built your foundation already.
Right.
So then you added your team, the people that
Right.
you are courting
Right.
you, and now it's just, you know, overflowed really
Yeah.
in blessings for you. So I think that's absolutely amazing. Like that's something that is truly amazing. I want to deep dive into something though, and I don't know if you can give too much insight into it, but being in a room with the Liberty, being in a room
Right.
with the Sparks and the Mets, and
Right.
how much long of a process is that to really finalizing a quote unquote deal to work with them? Does it take months? Does it take years? Does it take hours in a room, multiple times coming back? How does that work?
It's usually about 6 months. I would say in getting a new client and just negotiating and pitching them, and then they got to go talk to their bosses, and then they got to approve the
long
budget
time.
and all those things. Now the timeline is shortened a little bit, right? Like I think my work is kind of
for
preceding me a little bit, which is great, right? But realistically, it takes about 6 months, and I think because of that timeline, it also made me also have to start adjusting what made sense. Like I have to sit here and say that a lot of my company's progress has come by way of frustration. Once I've gotten frustrated is when I'm like, no. I can't be upset. So if I'm upset, something around here's got to change. So if something around here's got to change, now I'm kicking the tires. Now I'm looking up under the hood. Now I'm seeing what's working, what's not working, who needs to get paid, who doesn't need to get paid. Like, what are our margins on this thing? Do we need to adjust? What's the, you know what I mean? So now I'm really starting to think about all of these things when things don't go right? So you also start to think about just your time and your money value, right? So it's like, okay, cool. If this is going to be 6 months of work, we can't walk away with this. We can't walk away from this with $2,000 profit.
Yes.
I can't be doing 6 months of work for the production to cost the lion's share of the money that we getting, and then walking away with $2,000. Like, that wasn't going to be it, which then now leads to the next level of like, all right, cool, we in these rooms, but like, also, do you have the balls enough to have them actually pay your price? Right. Like, and the way I explained it to myself was, the corporations are the ones with the money. They are the ones that should be paying full price. Them paying full price allows me to go do the charitable stuff in the Bronx and make 50 free soccer jerseys for a budding soccer league, or to do track suits for a dance team in Queens, and the parents can't really afford it. True. The corporation should be the ones that should be paying us full price, so that we can give the moms and the kids a cut on our price. You know, so it was really just starting to think about the overall ecosystem of how all of it works. And like you said, just thinking about time, like you think about your like 6 months. So you're talking about, all right, it's going to take me 6 months to reach out to these people and essentially get the deal. Now, that's assuming that we got the deal. It's still going to take 6 months for y'all to say no too. So now what would happen if we actually spent the first 6 months of the year pushing for something, and then that doesn't happen? Even if it was the $2,000 we were going to get, that's no grand now. Right. So what happens if that deal doesn't happen? And I think the blessing in all of this and in the growth is the fact that I've stayed down, and like, we've just continued to focus and push. This is what we do. This is all that we do. We do jerseys. The jerseys has expanded into sportswear, but we've never made a t-shirt. Mm-hmm. We've never made a sweatshirt, which is where everybody was like, all right, you starting a clothing line. Like, you make a t-shirt. No, that's literally not what's, we went against the grain at literally every aspect of business, right? Everybody would tell you, all right, cool, come up with a design, print out 50 shirts, and then go sell those 50 shirts. Nah, I actually don't want inventory. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually train people to understand that if you want anything of quality, it's going to take time. When you go to a steakhouse, your steak wasn't sitting under a heat lamp. The chef went back there and cooked it. So you want to sit there and you're going to wait for the chef to come back with your steak that he cooked. Now, if you want the shit with the heat lamp, then you can go get that, but it's going to cost you way less, and you can go get it, and it's going to be cheap. But know that y'all going to get the cheap shit. Right. So I think that's where it was kind of like, nah, we stood in our shit is high quality. We stand by our quality. No client has ever come back to us and been like, damn, this shit sucked. Ever. So our quality speaks for itself. And the reason why we keep getting business is because we continue to do right by people. We continue to do the little things. It's the being nice to people. It's the like people actually wanting to work with you and actually wanting to talk to you. It's the us like meeting deadlines. It's the when you know that you are getting y'all placing your order with us, that we're gonna get it done, and we're gonna be upfront, communicate, and do all these things that we need to, because that's also doing good business. And I think a lot of times when people are going into business, they lose sight of the fact that this is all customer service. Yeah. This is all a service industry. And I'm at the service of my customers. Given I set the parameters of what it is y'all are going to be able to come in here and order, and like what that vibe is going to be. Absolutely. But we figured out the system, and you either come in and you play in the system, or you don't. But in us figuring out our system, we've also, everybody that's come to play has played within our confines. And because if you don't, we not doing business with you. Right. So it's definitely worked out. But I think the key to that has been primarily in recognizing who we were, sticking to who we were, because the world is going to continue to try to push you to be what they want you to be. And now 5, almost 6 years later, we're really starting to reap the benefits. And even to tie it into the last question of like slow time, I'm at a weird point in life now where the first 3-4 years, I was spending all day getting up, coming up with new ideas. Oh, damn, like, let's hit up Glossier, and let's hit up Yeti, and let's hit up, thinking of every brand under the sun that you could think of. I've contacted all of them. So now it's like, all right, cool. What happens when you've literally run out of ideas? And what God has shown me is like, all right, cool. Like, it's almost kind of like surfing. Like, you can paddle, but at some point, you just got to ride the wave. And the wave is going to come, but you just got to ride the wave and let the current take you wherever it's going to take you. And, and now I am making the most money I've ever made, but also working the least. which inherently doesn't make sense to how people think about. But I'm like, most of my dates this morning, I was watching a Dallas Cowboys documentary on Netflix. Yesterday, I was watching a documentary on Wall Street. Like, you see, so to me, I'm like, I have more time now, but we're also making way more. So at the same time, and then because the system has been figured out, there, of course, you get higher, you elevate. The challenges change, right? Absolutely. Now sales tax. Now you paying sales tax every quarter versus at the end of the year. So you better have that bread put to the side. You know what I mean? Like, things change as you continue to elevate. Other companies have different systems that you have to now then go make sure that y'all are acclimated with, and that y'all systems can both correspond. Or now you got to go buy more insurance. So now this is another bill. Or you can have a president that now implements tariffs somewhere that now throws off everything, and now you paying thousands of dollars more than you expected to pay. There's so many things that happen every day. And it goes back. Something I think about is a guy, I think it was a CEO of one of those like homemade food kit type things. Like I can't think of the name right now. But one of the things he said, they asked him, like, your company became number one in this field. How do you feel about competition? He goes, I'm not really worried about competition and us being number one, because in order to be number one, you had to make a lot of hard decisions to get here. Right. And y'all aren't going to make those decisions. So, and we've made those decisions and figured it out and done it. So therefore, I'm really not worried about somebody coming behind us. Because again, if y'all see our success and that encourages you to try to step into like the jersey field or sportswear field of things, that's cool, but there's a lot of things we've learned in the last 4 years that y'all gonna have to learn the hard way, because we know what works and what doesn't work, but y'all can see it from the outside and think that y'all know what works. It doesn't work that way. So it's definitely been a lot of learning. It's definitely been a lot of growth. But I think with all of that, it's really been a journey in understanding myself and understanding what makes me tick, and also how that relates and kind of coincides with the overall mission.
Overall mission in life, absolutely. And I think what's inspiring is that, again, you've done it so fast in such a short period of time, where a lot of people just have to continue to grind and grind. And not saying that you're not grinding, because clearly you are. Like you said, and you change. As time goes, you got to evolve, and you're evolving. And doing the little things correctly, so that way the bigger picture continues to stay consistent and grow. What do you see? You've been doing this 5-6 years now. Right. What do you see the next 5 years looking like? Like, I know obviously you believe in your faith, and you're gonna say, God, wherever this takes me, it takes me. But everybody has a vision for what they quote unquote want. So what for the next 5 years do you see this company doing?
Good question. God has allowed me to kind of see what the future should look like. I can only control what I can control from my end. The rest is on him. But what I do see for us is continuing this trend of making more money and doing less work. So for me, what it's looking like is continuing to set the goals higher, right? So of course we want to continue to work with the teams that we're working with. We also want to continue to add another team, like just at the base level of, can we add another team in every sport that we're already in every year, right? So like that in itself just keeps business going, right? But in the things that we've learned over time and have grown with, I think it also puts us in a very unique position when we can do something that's very unique, in the sense that we can actually license out our product to other people, right? So it can take, so when I came into this a couple years ago, when I was thinking about it a couple years ago, the natural thought for most people was, all right, cool, now you got to go get the money so that you can go buy the licensing from every league. And then that way you can put their stuff, their logos on your stuff, and it's going to move. Here's the thing. You can go buy the licensing from the MLB for $1 million. Cool. You can have access to Cincinnati Reds logo and the Yankees logo and the Mets logo and whatever. Here's the catch-22 and all of that. Those logos being on your shit isn't going to make your shit sell. Nobody cares whether you're officially licensed by the MLB or the NFL or the average person does not care. So for me, what really works now, and what's really happening now, is that we've also shown that our products move, right? We sold out of 400 herseys in Brooklyn Fanatic store of Ellie's hersey. We sell product. Our product moves. In LA, the Sparks crew, the people been asking about that track jacket all year. The next step to me is always, all right, cool. So how do we make sure how can we put this product in y'all store for next season? Because the fans want it. So if the fans want it, why can't we do this? People keep asking about the Timeless Torches merchandise. Why can't we put that on the shelves? Now that we're working with Fanatics, why can't we put these things on the shelves, right? So for me, a lot of it is, especially as Mr. One-Man Band Man that I am, it becomes I can only do but so much. So now it becomes well, why can't we just license out the product, which is the hersey, which is ours, that cool, Fanatics, you can have that for however much we decide on per year for X amount of years. Y'all already have the licensing. Y'all go do whatever y'all want to do with it. We'll go do some other stuff and keep it pushing. And I think that's the next step. The other step too is giveaways, right? Like I want to land a giveaway or two from an MLB team or two, right? Like when they do those like jersey giveaways, it's 18,000 jerseys at a time. Those jerseys ain't gonna cost $1 to make. So I'm like, and we have the better quality. We have the best quality. So if that's the case, like that could be a really big payday for us in one foul swoop without me having a nickel and dime and go and get every single team. So that's really the goal, is to, again, like I said, continue to make more without doing as much work. And I think the only way to kind of do that is going to be wholesaling to a certain degree.
Yeah, and I think also when people think that like, all right, now if they do less work, they're gonna do, this X, Y, and Z. You could take that time and do it in so many other different ways, whether it be charity, like we talked about earlier, and just giving back to people that now you have the time to do that. You have the time to set things up. You have the time to add some people, that can help you build all that, with all the success that comes with it. I listen to your story and I find it fascinating only because you have a true story from start to, I wouldn't say finish because it's far from finished, but you have a true story that continues to climb. There is really no, you talked about a little bump in here or there, but there is no bump. And that's something that not a lot of people can stand on.
Right.
And I also think within your story, you said it, like being able to achieve things has always been something that has been your mission to constantly grow. So for me, I take inspiration just by talking to you here, to constantly grow as a person. And I hope people that watch the episode take that same exact thing, not just, he makes, he does his jerseys, he's worked with these teams. No, he's actually accomplished it because he's never given up. He's never settled. He's always had this foundation, and he's also had parameters where you're talking about, listen, I'm not doing business with you if you're not going to X, Y, Z. Having parameters, let's think about it. People don't have that. They don't have the boundary level to... They'll be like, all right, you're going to pay a little bit extra? All right, I'm going to do this to X, Y, Z. I'm going to give up my... No, like you have that. And I think that's admirable. And I think that's just something that we don't see every day. So I just want to say props to you. And I want to say before we really even get out of here, I really want you to just plug everybody in where they could get everything, where they could find your merch, where they could find you, where they could find the brand. So if you could do that for me, please.
Well, one thing I want to say is, well, first of all, thank you. And thank you again for having me. I think one of the things that attracted me to coming here and doing this podcast with you is I'm a firm believer that there are few of us that are put here on this earth to build, right? I'm a builder. And therefore I'm attracted to other builders. There's a kindred spirit between me and other builders. And what you've built and are building with your podcast shows that you are a builder, right? Like I'm gonna stay down because I have this vision, and the vision is the vision, and we just gonna keep going until we can't anymore, right? And I think that's just kind of where it is. Like you said, that's not like far from being done kind of thing, right? And I think that's where the build is, and it becomes and kind of going back to that, like, well, what's next? It becomes well, it might also mean just building something different that's outside of this. It really just comes down to where God calls me to build, right? And I see you as another builder, and whether this becomes what really does it for you or something else, you know, becomes what really does it for you, everything, like you said, leads to the next thing. And the only way you can do that is by staying on the journey and staying on the path and continuing to fight that fight. So I commend you on that, because it's not easy, right? Like me now at year 5, almost year 6, could tell, like, year 3 me could not fathom being here now, right? And I've been doing this full time since year 3. And it wasn't until year 3 that I actually started learning things about the business. You can only learn things about things when you really fully commit.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I fully committed to jerseys, until I fully committed to this business as it stands now. And that's when things really opened up. And I think that's what also made me realize that that is the key to success. Like, even when you think about marriage, right? Marriage is really just is committing to someone under God. And I was sitting there and I'm just kind of like, is the answer to life just commitment? Like, even on an interpersonal level, I need to know. I'm not coming to this podcast if you haven't already done mad episodes. Like, nobody wants to be the first person.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you haven't shown me that you've committed, then how are you expecting people to commit their dollars to you, right? If you haven't shown the Lord that you commit into the mission that he has for you, then how is he going to continue to bless you with the things that you need to do to equip you to go do those things? So I think that with that, it's like, it's staying down, it's continuing to build, it's continuing to stay focused on the mission. But again, I think, you know, there aren't too many of us that are called in this way to build something that's meaningful. And when you are born to be a builder, I think you know inherently, and I think then it becomes the path to understanding what exactly he needs you to build when you need to build it. Absolutely. So with that, I will now answer your question.
I appreciate it, man. Now, that was really inspiring. Thank you.
So where people can find us is rarebreedbx.com. Rarebreedbx on Instagram. You can also find me at Elguapo BX, of course. And I'm Starkey, and I will be here for the foreseeable future, continuing to make the best sportswear on the planet. And we have a lot of new things coming, a lot of new products coming. We have a Starkey Tech coming on the way.
That's dope.
Putting out a sweatsuit this winter. We're working on a couple other products and projects. And we really just gonna go where the doors open to a certain degree. But it's been fun. It's been a blessing, and I'm happy to do this every day.
Man, again, I'm happy that you came. I'm happy that you blessed this podcast, man. I'm just very, very thankful. I'm excited to see all the work. You know, I obviously done my research on you, seen the amazing things you've done so far. So I'm excited to see what's next, what's the future, and I'm happy that I was a step in your journey to the continued success that, you know, you're going to continue to have, man. Thank you, my brother, again, for coming.
Well, thank you for having me, man. Absolutely, I appreciate it. Thank you. And then we're going to get those Culture Shock jerseys.
Hell yeah. That would be hard, bro. That would be hard.
Jerseys.
That would be dope.
We'll make those happen.
Absolutely,
we'll make it happen.
bro.
For sure,
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
That being said, that's another episode of Culture Shock Podcast. We out of here.